Coming up on UGTV, Board of Commission meeting of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
Townsend.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
Mugia. Johnson.
Here.
Kane.
Here.
Markley.
Here.
Walters. Here. Philbrook.
Here.
Alvey.
Here. Commissioner Kane should have said finally here instead of just here, but that's good. This evening, the invocation is being given by Commissioner Johnson. Please stand.
May we bow our heads. God of all creation, we thank you for bringing us together one more time as this body of the governing body for Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas. As we come together, God, I ask that you would give us wisdom on how to lead this county, how to improve the lives of all of our constituency, how to have a level of civility even when we disagree. God, help us, Lord, to make this place a better place to live, so that people will come from miles around just to see the bright, shining light that we are in this place that we call home. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I'd like to recognize in the audience we have Mr. Chuck Stites from the Edwardsville City Council, and we also have former City Council member, KCK City Council member, Joe Vaught. So thank you for coming, Joe. And you're always sporting a great hat, Joe. I'll ask the clerk if there are any revisions to tonight's agenda.
There are no revisions, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We have your statement.
We would like to welcome all present to this meeting of the Unified Government Commission. Members of the commission are Mayor David Haley, Commissioner Melissa Bynum at Large District 1, Commissioner Tom Burrows at Large District 2, Commissioner Gail Townsend, District 1, Commissioner Brian McKiernan, District 2, Commissioner Ann McGee, District 3, Commissioner Harold Johnson Jr., District 4, Commissioner Mike Kane, District 5, Commissioner Angela Markley, District 6, Commissioner Jim Walters, District 7, and Commissioner Jane Philbrook, District 8. As each petition is called this evening, all persons for or against will be given the opportunity to express their views. If this is the first time that a particular petition has been before this commission, the commission has three options. Number 1, it can approve the recommendation of the Planning Commission with 6 votes. Number 2, it can override the planning recommendation, but it would take 8 votes to override. And number 3, it can return the matter to the Planning Commission for further consideration, together with the statement specifying the reason for the referral back to the Planning Commission. The consent agenda is the first part of the planning and zoning agenda. Items on the consent agenda have received a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission. Unless there is a request to set aside a consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the public, the Unified Government Commission, or staff, then the Planning Commission recommendation on all items on the consent agenda will be adopted by the Unified Government Commission at one time. I will read the list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the mayor will ask us if there is a request to set aside items from the consent agenda. This is your time to stand up and request that an item be set aside if you do not agree with the Planning Commission's recommendation. If an item is set aside, the matter would be discussed and voted upon separately. All items not set aside will be approved with the Planning Commission's recommendation. We appreciate the attendance of those people here this evening, and we recognize the importance of each petition. We would remind you that there are a number of items on the agenda, and we would appreciate your efforts to make your remarks as concise as possible. We ask that anyone with a cell phone to please turn them off or switch to non-audio so you will not disturb the meeting. Once the petitioner makes their presentation, anyone for or against will be allowed the maximum 3 minutes to state your views. As you come to the microphone, please state your name and city for the record. The mayor and commission are required to disclose contacts with proponents or opponents on any items on the planning and zoning agenda. I will ask if any members wish to disclose any contacts with proponents or opponents on any items on the agenda.
Do any of the commissioners have any disclosures to make? Yes, Commissioner Bynum?
I have had contact with opponents of SP 2018-8.
Thank you. Commissioner Philbrook?
I've had contact with, I can't even talk tonight, proponents of SP 2018-10.
And Commissioner Kane?
I've had contacts, SP 2018-3 opponent, and then SP 2018-8 opponent.
Thank you very much.
I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Change of zone application, item 1, 3156 John Freshnock with WSFK Architects. Change of zone from CPO planned non-retail business district to C3 commercial districts for offices, warehouse of parts and appliances, appliance repair, carpentry shop and material storage, minor auto repair, maintenance and night storage of vehicles inside a building at 1300 Meadowlark Lane, recommended for approval. Special use permit applications, item 1, SP 2017-63, Alma Mendoza with Arm & Hammer Contracting, LLC. Special use permit for an auto detail shop at 741 Washington Boulevard, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 2, SP 2017-67, Adrian and Lynette Jasper. Special use permit for a restaurant and drinking establishment with live entertainment in the West State Plaza at 7540 Armstrong Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 3, SP 2018-2, Ann and Royal Ba. Home occupation special use permit for an Airbnb at 1615 North 86th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 4, SP 2018-3, Inga D. Lee, special use permit for an Airbnb VRBO at 4721 Canaan Lake Drive, recommended for denial. Item 5, SP 2018, Julie F. T. Encini, home occupation special use permit for a daycare at 10524 Augusta Drive, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 6, SP 2018-5, Robert C. Rice, home occupation special use permit for an Airbnb at 3011 West 44th Avenue, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 7, SP 2018-7, Trabora Ross, special use permit for 4 cows, 4 goats, and 50 chickens at 1700 South 38th Street, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 8, SP 2018-8, Will Anderson with BHC Roads with Ruffin Woodlands, LLC. It's been withdrawn by the applicant. Site will be cleaned in 6 weeks. Item number 9, SP 2018-9, Caitlin Lynch and Christine Raymond, home occupation special use permit for an Airbnb at 2824 North 99th Street, Cherith, recommended for approval for 2 years. Item 10, SP 2018-10, John Freshnock with WSKF Architects, special use permit for offices, warehouse of parts and appliances, appliance repair, carpentry shop, and material storage, minor auto repair, maintenance, and night storage of vehicles inside a building at 1300 Meadowlark Lane, recommended for approval for 2 years. Those are all items on the consent agenda.
Thank you. Commissioner Philbrook would like to make an additional disclosure.
Yes, even though it's been pulled from the agenda, I still need to disclose that I had contact with proponents and opponents to SP 2018-8.
Good. Thank you. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the planning and zoning consent agenda? If an item is not set aside, all items on the planning and zoning consent agenda will be voted on by one vote to follow the recommendation of the Planning Commission. Yes, sir. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ali. I make the petition 2018-3 for the Airbnb license. I'm very happy to up here today to hear from your final decision. Yeah.
He is asking for a set aside, correct? Right. So please.
For approval for all remaining items?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Bynum,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Mugia,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Kane, Markley,
Aye.
Walters, Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
And that takes us to the set-aside item, SP 2018-3, Mr. Lee, special use permit for an Airbnb vacation rental by owner at 4721 Canaan Lake Drive, submitted by Rob Richardson. Mr. Richardson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the commission. This applicant comes to you from the Planning Commission, recommended for denial. This is a large home that sits on Canaan Lake. It's a replatted version of the old Piper Lake Club. The subdivision is called Canaan Lake now. There's several different versions of that in that area, but this is one that is titled specifically Canaan Lake. And it's a very large home. It's been available on Airbnb and VRBO. Mr. Lee does not live in the unit. And with that brief introduction, I would turn it over to Mr. Lee to present his case.
Yes, Mr. Lee, would you please come forward? And again.
Yep. Our B&B rental has been going for over the year, and the house is netted in the wood without any immediate neighborhood. And so far, for over a year, we haven't heard any comment, although our mailbox is there, and nobody dropped anything, any concern. I work around the house every time, and cleaning the house and my car parked on the driveway. Nobody tell me anything, and certainly when the process to have the B&B license, and then many people object to it, and I appreciate it. At least they give me the peace time for the last over a year, and I really appreciate their comment, and I feel their comment valid. And in the last hearing, one of the commission member of the committee recommend me to see is there any compromise to address the concern of the neighbor, and I do have it today, and I am glad to present it. For example, for the noise, big concern is noise. The second concern is the parking, and the third concern is communication, lacking of communication, and third concern is the valuation of the neighborhood house because the B&B activity. So for the first three concerns, actually, when I have the regular tenant, many my neighbors say that the tenant didn't take good care of the house, didn't take the pride of ownership. He leave the landscape like jungle, and even when he mowed the lawn, he carried a gun with him. So my Steve neighbor didn't like it, and at least for the AMB, my neighbor would see that the big improvement. I take good care of the yard. I mow the lawn regularly, and then landscaping it's really nice. And I invest $50,000 to redo all the AC inside the house, the new furniture, painting the house inside, outside, take good care of the yard, and I have the pride of my ownership, and the guests only stay 3 days, 4 days, and they gone. So I am the one that take care of the neighborhood. So I don't see the reason why my house would devaluate the value of the neighborhood. So for other concern, I feel that if I would limit the house is really big, so it's difficult for me. If I have the 7 bedroom, over 7,000 square foot, so let's say couple per bedroom, so limit to 14 people maximum. And the house have 3 car garage, so let's say it's 3 car garage, 3 car park inside, 3 outside on the driveway or on the street, so maximum 6 cars. And then the communication I have open, I have mailbox, I have the internet, and then I promise to regularly talk to my neighbor to have any of their concern. And for the noise, making some indecent guests, but we cannot avoid all of the guests, but majority of the guests paying up to $800 a night. They are very good people. So sometimes they stay outside, they're excited about the beauty of the lake, they talk loud. And you only can hear it from the yard, not from the inside the house, because how far away, so it's impossible to see. So if I put the new house rules, say that they cannot make big noise or they subject to fine, and I take away their security deposit, and we do it. So I believe that I want to correct my anything that I'm missing. And I believe that when I come to this country, in America, people always have the second chance. I want to consider for second chance for me to correct whatever I have make my neighbor unhappy about it, and I apologize to it. And if that's not possible, I sincerely, with my due respect, I ask for extension until after the Labor Day weekend. Enough time for me to recoup the $50,000 investment for the busy summer, so I can book and finish it up, recoup some of my investment. I'm not quite sure I can recoup all of them, but at least for right now there's no booking at all because very low, only July, August, and September. June, July, August, that's the 3 months. That have more booking for me so I can survive and go on, and then after that I will put the house for sale. Yeah, that's all I need to say. Yeah, thank you very much for consideration of our application. Sir. Yeah, bye now.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I'll now open the public hearing. Is there anyone present who would like to speak in favor? This is for those who speak in favor. No? All right. Seeing none, anyone who would like to speak in opposition, please come forward to the podium if you can. If there are similar comments, we can hear just from one, if that's possible. Please state your name and your address for the record. There is a limit of 3 minutes for comments.
3 minutes?
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Your Honor. My name is David Brooks. I'm the next door neighbor. I've lived in Kansas City, Kansas since 1974, except for 3 years away at law school. I built a house on Canaan Lake in 1997. I'm the one kind of on the top of the little cul-de-sac there. I was the first house in the cul-de-sac. Over the years, I don't know how many of my law partners said, "What are you doing living in Kansas City, Kansas?" And I said, "Well, but that's for my family. Has lived for a long time. My wife grew up here. Her grandfather, Michael Bidnick, was a beat cop on Strawberry Hill. Her dad, Joe Bidnick, worked for the city for civil defense. Her brother, Paul, is retired BPU. Her brother, Joey, who died a couple years ago, lived in Bonner and spent his career at Tabco over in Turner. And I was delighted to find a place to build in Kansas City, Kansas, where I could tell my snooty law partners, hey, look, we have a place every bit as beautiful and secluded and as nice as what you have. And it has been for the last 20 of my 21 years. Things changed dramatically a little over a year ago. Mr. Lee never consulted any of us. I just started knowing seeing a lot of cars coming and going, out-of-state cars. There'd be times I'd see 20 and 25 cars parked on the street on both sides, a lot of them in front of my house. Instead of the trash being put out on Thursday for Friday pickup, it'd be there all week outside blowing around. There were guys' weekends where they'd sit on the back deck, and it seems like all they did was cuss and drank all weekend. I had to bring my grandkids in. I don't want them to have a premature education on profanity. It changed the character of the neighborhood dramatically. And I don't see where it's ever going to change. Mr. Lee has only lived in that house 4 of the 12 years he's owned it. He was overseas a lot. Since he's been back from Taiwan, he hasn't lived there at all. When he was gone, it was either vacant or long-term leasing. Now for a year without permission, he's been doing the Airbnb.
You have 1 minute, sir.
We've had motorcycle groups. I don't know, I don't want to repeat everything I said in the last hearing. I could go on and on and on. But the bottom line is that that's not what the benefit of our bargain was when we bought out there. We were assured these were single-family residential homes. I've even got the restrictions from the 1960 original Piper Club replat. It specifically says no rentals, no businesses of any kind, single family only, residential only. Those restrictions were reincorporated right into our title policies. It reincorporated those restrictions from the 1960 Piper Club edition. So I felt very safe that the neighborhood would never change and turn into rentals. When you pull into our neighborhood, the developer says, I'll just finish my sentence, would that be okay? Thank you very much. The developer says, new houses up to over $1 million. I'm telling you, nobody's gonna go in there and spend $1 million for a house if they find out that it's a neighborhood that allows rentals, and there might even be some people moving out of the area if it continues down that way.
Thank you, sir. Again, please state your name and your address.
My name is Raymond Horvat. I live at 4800 North 123rd Street. It's right across the cove from Mr. Lee's house. We built there in 1995, my wife Rebecca and I. We were the 5th house on the lake. We've been there for 23 years, and we really enjoy it. And just to reiterate what Dave said, about a year ago, we started seeing people coming in, you know, stay 3 or 4 days, loud, party. To make no mistake, this is not an Airbnb. An Airbnb or a bed and breakfast, the owner stays there. He lives in Johnson County in Overland Park. The noise can get loud at times. Sometimes you don't even want to go in your own backyard. We've never called the police, but if this is permitted to go on, the police will be over there a lot. And Mr. Lee had no idea of what is going on because he doesn't live there. He just wants to rent the place out, come clean it up, and go on from there. And I mean, we've been sitting in a family room looking out over the lake. I seen drones flying back and forth. You know, I don't know if they have cameras. But people use the lake. Mr. Lee, when the Murray brothers started building across the lake, we hired a lawyer to protect all the amenities that we had. And one of the things that we incorporated in, you had to make a choice whether you joined the homeowners association or you used the lake permit. You could sign a lake permit use, and there were 3 or 4 items. He is not, as I understand, a member in good standing. The people come over there, some of them, they use kayaks.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Okay, thank you. And, you know, they're doing this where basically they're trespassing on our property, the lake. And I'll make it very short and very quickly. My wife and I have discussed this. I'm born and raised in Wyandotte County. I spent 32 years with the fire department. I've known no other city, all my friends and family around here. But I can guarantee you that if this is allowed to go on, we'll just have to decide how we're going to promote our house as a good place to raise our family, as we did, or as a business opportunity for somebody else when we decide to sell it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please.
Thank you for this opportunity to discuss
Your name?
this. My name is Ed Stewart. I live at 4801 North 124th Terrace. This house in discussion tonight is on the southeast corner of the lake. I live on the northwest corner of the lake, so I'm quite a ways away. I'd like to rebut a couple of things that Mr. Lee has stated tonight. He told you that he's very easily available at the house. I've driven by several times since the meeting that we had at his house, approximately the 22nd or 23rd of December. I would say I've driven by probably 8 to 10 times. I have never found his car in the driveway, but he says that he's easily available and easily contacted there. On Christmas Eve of this year, I drove through the area. There were cars parked. I didn't count them, but there were cars parked all around the cul-de-sac, up and down the street. It was very, very crowded. The noise level gets to the point where we need to close our windows on our homes. Sometimes during the summer months, my wife and I like to sleep with the windows open. We can't do that sometimes because of the noise level. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Jerry Goodell. I live at 12410 Meadow Lane, which is across the lake. I've lived there about 13, I think we're in our 14th year. It's a very, very nice neighborhood until about a year ago. A lot of people started trespassing on the lake, and Mr. Horvath stated it correctly. It's a private lake. It's actually owned by the Colony of Canaan Lake Homeowners Association. The people on the east side of the lake had a choice to join the HOA or pay lake assessment dues. Mr. Lee has never joined or paid any of the dues. A lot of his people use the lake. They put kayaks, they put paddle boats on the lake, they fish on the lake, they walk around the lake on the west side. They use some of the stone walkways. There is a partial, we're supposed to have walking trails. We have a partial walking trail. They use that. They carry their beer, their drinks. They leave a lot of trash, and we don't know who they are. I drove there on Christmas Eve also. I counted the cars. There were 23 cars there. Most of the cars, all the cars were from Missouri, no Kansas plates, no rental cars. Most of the cars were from 10 to 15 years old. I drove by on Christmas Day Eve, and there was 21 cars parked there. There was one person actually laying in the street. I was actually on the way to the hospital. The wife was in pretty serious condition at the time. I didn't call the police. You hear the noise, and this is single-family development. The school bus stop is just down the street from Mr. Lee's house. We don't know who's staying in the house. And even any B&B in that area, concerned about who's staying there and what type of people they are. On the west side of the lake, it's one way in, one way out. All the roads end into cul-de-sacs or turns. The kids ride their bicycles, they play in the streets, they play catch. The kids pretty much freely go through there. There's 2 bus stops on that side of the development. And I'm very concerned, you know, I can go on the city mapping and the thing, I can find out who the bad guys are. It's all listed. We don't know of the 30, 40 people that's staying in his house. And he also states in a lot of his website that one floor can hold, I think it was 14 people, but we also have blow-up bed, we have mattresses, we have cots.
Your time is up, sir.
We can handle over 30 people in the house. And on Christmas Eve, if there's 23 cars, if that's one person a car, that's 23 people, and I don't think they were all one person in those cars. And thank you very much for listening.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else who would like to? Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the City Council, my name is Tony Novak. I live at 4834 North 123rd Street. I've lived there for the past 13 years. I'm about 3 houses north of the house that we're talking about this evening. The balcony of this house, actually there are 2 levels to this house, and something that I should bring to your attention, when Mr. Lee rents this out, he can rent out both separately. So you have a group that is on the upper balcony, and you have another group, another different party or series of guests on the lower level. There have been times when both are rented out simultaneously, and so you can have anywhere from 15, 20, 30, 40 people at the same time, all having a party. Now, they don't owe us anything. They don't owe us any respect, and these guests many times do not show us any respect. You know, there are a lot of colleges in the metropolitan area. I didn't realize there were so many, because I've learned about 7 or 8 new fight songs in the past year. And you can hear them cheering and yelling as they're having a good time, because nobody's paying attention to what they're doing. Mr. Lee is not there. He calls us his neighbors. You can't be a neighbor of mine if you live in Wyandotte County and you're selling your house out to other people to party and show no respect to the people that have spent their great portion of their lives, time and energy, being proud of their property and taking care of it.
You have 1 minute, sir.
Thank you very much. There's a sign when you drive into Piper Lake. It's now called Piper Lake, for your information. And it says no fishing, private property. I guess Mr. Lee doesn't think that pertains to him, because in his brochures that are online, he said, bring your fishing poles, have good times at Piper Lake. I pay out of pocket, like most of these other ladies and gentlemen here tonight, to restock the lake with our own money, over and above other things. And I resent the fact that other people that don't even live in the state, let alone the county, can come in to my private area and have a good time and then pack up and leave with no regard. It's like throwing a cigarette butt out on my driveway, and I don't appreciate it. I thank you for your time. I hope you understand where we're all coming from, and I don't really think in your heart of hearts you would want to live next door to a situation like this.
Your time is
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, Mr. Novak. Any further comments or questions from the public? At this time, I will close the public hearing. They've already asked. Would the petitioner like, Mr. Lee, would you like to make any closing comments?
Thank you, sir. I have stressed it. I understand the issue, and unfortunately, nobody tell me anything. My mailbox always open. Many times they can see me and tell me. And my other neighbor in the cul-de-sac, Mr. Steve Sudacom, he told me something, but he said nothing serious, and that's what I'm going on. For the HOA and the lake, I'm not aware of anything. People just told me that I don't have the dock, I don't have the boat, I don't have to do anything. So that was because I have enough money to build. That's how I have enough money to pay the due for HOA. And I'm a good citizen. I retired chief engineer nuclear structure for Black and White. So I obey the law. I not try to don't say pay the due. If I have the chance to know that HOA there, I pay the due. So unfortunately, people misunderstand me. So I only need couple more months to wrap up my B&B and I sell the house. If I cannot sell the house, I live there. And I have 2 houses for sale. 1 house in Olin Park will be listed by April, and 1 house in Wyandotte County. So which house sell first, I will go buy. And all I need is a couple more months so I can recoup the investment. If I know that I have that trouble, I'm not going to take the risk to invest and have a trouble with my neighbor. Even after I talk to, I get the hearing, I want to shake my neighbor hand. They don't want to take hand me. They consider me like enemy. So I don't understand how people can change that fast. I stay there for 4 or 5 months. I didn't hurt anybody. Nobody. My guess is even they make noise, they do that, but nobody can prove that they have the physical or financially damage at all. Just, they don't want to see it. That's all. And so that's all abstract. So all I needed from them that to be the neighbor, good neighbor, and to treat me with respect, and I treat them with due respect. And all I need a couple more months till the Labor Day weekend when the kids return to school. I stop B&B altogether and I put the house for sale. That's all I need. So I don't ask for any more. And I feel that the win-win situation for anybody. And again, I apologize to my neighbor. Anything I have mishandled, it's not my intention to do. And I hope I have the chance to recoup and run it better. I will stay in the house. If I rent only upper level or lower level. I have somebody stay there to control my guests, and that's what I promise. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Do any members of the commission have any questions or comments? Commissioner Kane?
Thank you, Mayor. Rob, I'm reading this. It says, do you have a business license? He does not have a B&B business license?
That's correct.
Okay. And then on number 6 is what is the maximum number of people will be staying in the home. He says he does not know, does not stay there when the guests are there, for he does not know the exact number of people.
That's correct.
With all that being said, I vote to uphold the recommendations of the, I can't remember, Planning and Zoning Committee.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to support the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Roll call, Bynum.
I think. Is my aye vote in favor of his recommendation for denial?
That's correct.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia. Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the planning and zoning portion of tonight's meeting. We'll now move to the regular portion of our agenda. Does any member of the commission or anyone in attendance tonight wish to set aside any item on the regular consent agenda? Once again, if an item is not set aside, all items on the consent agenda will be voted on by one vote.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Bynum.
I'm sorry. Do we need discussion on that? No. Very good.
Aye.
Bynum is aye.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Aye.
The vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Very good. Our final item is a request to travel to Dallas, Texas, submitted by Commissioner Johnson.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call.
Roll call. Bynum. Burrows.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Mugia.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Kane. Markley.
Aye.
Walters. Philbrook.
Well, I guess. That was my spot. No, just kidding. Aye.
Vote is 10-0. That motion carries.
Well, that concludes our meeting for the evening, except for my final comments, which only take me about 10 minutes. No, sorry. I'd like to thank you for your attendance. Thank you. We are adjourned.